morning, everybody. Welcome to TLD Cast. It's Friday. That means it's Video Friday. And we're going to be talking about some video stuff. That's what we do on Fridays. That's why we call it Video Friday, right?
What a coincidence.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. We have Sam Rogers here, co-host of Video Friday today. How you doing, Sam?
Doing good. Good morning. Good morning. Cheers, everyone.
We have a fantastic guest waiting in the wings as well, Miss AmandaKaufmann as well. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump back into you guys in a second. And yes, everybody have your coffee, except mine's empty. So everybody else, have a drink while I ramble on for 60 seconds about the good things that we do here at TLDC. We are the Training, Learning, and Development Community Conference, Chat, and Broadcast. You're hanging out with us today on TLDcast, 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and 4 p.m. UK Time. Right here. Same bet channel, same bet time. Every single day, Monday through Friday. And what else do we have? Is Craig in the house? Yes, he is. Look at that. Hit up the website. You can also be a member. You can also hang out with us on our chat group. We use Slack for that. And if you're not a Slack user, you should check it out anyways. Sometimes people don't like going to Slack, but we can teach you how to be really good at it and how to enjoy it if you don't like it, because there is some great conversation going on there. Lots of job opportunities, consulting conversations going on, just a lot of great things happening inside the Slack group. So if you want to connect even further with the folks that you're meeting here in TLDcast, you can check out that Slack group and do that. And Craig, you got anything else for me?
Sponsorship. It looks
Sponsors. That's right. I almost forgot about that. Thanks for hitting us up with the sponsors today. You know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it a little bit differently today. Where are the sponsors? There they are. We've got all our sponsors here today, but we have one very, very, very special sponsor this week. And thank you so much, Sam, for reminding me. And I'm just going to go here right away, and I've got a script I'm supposed to read, but I didn't pull it up today. So the Virtual Learning Collaborative, Sonia was here with us yesterday. So if you guys did not see yesterday's broadcast, you should absolutely hang out with us on that replay and have that conversation go back to. Sonia's a fantastic part of the community. Thank you, Craig, for dropping in that link. go-vlc.com. If you do virtual classroom training and you want to get better at it and you want to learn about being a producer, learning about why you need a producer, even if you're just a classroom facilitator and you've decided to go virtual with either GoToMeeting or WebEx or GoToTraining or Zoom or whatever tool you use, you can go to go-VLC, talk to the wonderful folks there, and they will get you hooked up and connected. They are a fantastic member of the community and sponsor of what we do. So please feel free to support them, check them out, and get more information from their website and chat up Sonia and find out what it is that they can do for you. And also hit up all of our other sponsors. They all do great work, and we appreciate their support. So I believe that was way longer than 60 seconds, Sam. Get to it.
That's all right. The Virtual Learning Collaborative gets a little extra sometimes.
They do, for sure. So let's talk about our guest today, Sam.
Yes. So thank you for bringing up the website there. We have with us AmandaKaufmann. And oftentimes, you know, we're talking with folks that are just in the corporate training, learning, and development space. Amanda has some cred there, but also beyond that. So welcome, Amanda. Thanks for being with us today. And Brent, maybe we could go to the faces at this point.
I probably should go to the faces, shouldn't I?
Yeah, there we go.
We are much more important.
Yes.
Well, I was saying before we went live that I'm usually behind the camera. So,
well, thank you for joining us with your lovely face on the
this
camera.
is special. I don't do this for many people.
Well, we do appreciate it for sure, because we want to talk a lot about some of that behind the camera stuff, because a lot of folks are getting into it and they obviously may not be getting into the pro side of things, but we all know that the stuff that professionals do carries over into the beginner space as well. And so it's always fun to hear what we can be doing better.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about instructional video and some of the challenges that I can describe some of the challenges that I'm having in the space. And I love ideas, so hopefully we'll get some good dialogue going today.
Yeah, and first we'd love to just have you introduce yourself and say a little about who you are and what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, how you got to be there.
Absolutely. So my name is AmandaKaufmann. I am a writer-producer, and I come from the publishing world. So that means I've been involved in content development my whole career, starting out on print and then into digital in the 90s, the late 90s. And my company is Thrasher Editorial. Thrasher is a bird. And I run, it's a full service production, educational production company, but I personally specialize in working on content development with subject matter experts. And that would be video, it would be animation, assessment is tied to it. And then if I'm soup to nuts, so I'll bring in, as a producer, I'll bring in a team of professionals for whatever, if we need animation, voiceover, shoot direction. I travel around the country directing shoots. So I'll put the whole thing together for a publisher.
Great. And you come to us by way of Mike Sloat, is that right?
Yes, Mike is one of my partners, and he is part of my traveling roadshow, the Thrasher Roadshow. We're actually heading out to Georgia on Monday for a shoot. So yeah, he's a key part of the team.
Great. And for those who don't remember, there are a couple great episodes with Mike Sloat in the past TLD casts, and he's a great friend of TLDC. So, so when you're approaching something like a shoot in Georgia on Monday, what are some of the things that you're thinking about, or that have your attention for, like, other than pack the suitcase, to go there on Monday?
Good question. So just to describe the project a little bit, this is with a publisher, higher ed publisher. We're doing a series of 6 videos for anatomy and physiology. A lot of my work is in the hard sciences. And I was brought on to do all of the storyboarding with the subject matter expert. She's a professor and textbook author. So the thoughts, and we had a compressed schedule. So the thoughts were getting the most pedagogically sound content, everything gets reviewed, and it takes, several steps to get the content vetted and, written, vetted, revised. And then I do a production polish on everything, because I'm the key to the production side. People in publishing are not as well versed in production as I am. So that's what I bring to the table for them as well. And then, so I'm thinking about organization.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we finished all of the storyboards, and I needed to get the schedule together, the shot list, because I have a meeting today with the team. Everything's a team effort, and that's how you develop the best content for students. So bringing everybody together, putting all the details in place. It's a crunch, because then you also have to, like you say, pack your bag and get all your stuff situated. So it's, people think it's really glamorous to go out on a shoot, and it is in its own way. It's fun, but it's pretty stressful. But I like to take the stress away from my clients. That's what I like to do.
You know what let's do? Let's just jump right into something really tactical. And because Sam always talks about this with us on the pre-production side of things, because a lot of times our folks, I think, either don't know what to do on that pre-production side of things, or they're just too rushed, too busy, and then they realize, wow, if I had a thought of this ahead of time, or if I'd have planned this a little better, things would have gone better. What does that look like? Like some of like the tools maybe that you use, or how do you, I mean, you know, the lists that you make, you know, what does it really look like when you're doing that pre-production stuff?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm so happy to talk about pre-production, because I think a lot of times people aren't thinking about it, especially in content develop. Everyone's focused on production and post and, you know, all of the gear and everything. And see, and obviously I have to know what's going to fit a client's scenario based on budget. If we're traveling to a shoot, because we bring a whole kit with us and run everything ourselves. So just understanding what the boundaries are. So I've done this for so long, and it's really second nature to me now. Not that I don't get time constraints always stress me out, but you know, it's working delicately with people who are not as familiar with the process to get everything done in time. I always run through a storyboard looking for what props, how we're going to enhance the action, make the content more engaging for students. And I run through and pull all of the props that we're going to need and make sure everything is accounted for, that people know what to wear. And a lot of that's trial and error. You know, it's showing up to a shoot and somebody's wearing like, you know, super huge hairspray and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, didn't think to tell.
Can we calm the hair a little bit? Can we calm the hair?
Yeah, you think you're in education that you wouldn't run into that, but it happens. So, you know, everything, that's one of the things when you hire somebody like me, and hopefully me, you're getting all of that trial and error and knowledge about it's risk management and how to make everything as smooth as possible in the process.
That's a great way to think about it. Pre-production as risk management for the production and the post-production. That's great.
Definitely. We want to keep it really smooth, especially when people are not familiar with the process. So It's really important.
It sounds like you suffer a little bit like the rest of us from the curse of knowledge. You've been doing this for so long that a lot of it's second nature, right? And to go back to the beginning and to try to think through what it is, what are those little things, because they just come, you just know what to do all the time, right? And I think that's something that we all kind of struggle with. And so I'm just kind of curious to kind of maybe draw out a little bit of those details that are so automatic to you now. I'll try to go this direction and say, are you the one that creates the storyboards, or do you have somebody else that does that, or how does that
Good question. I mean, it depends on the project and who they have brought in on the development side. I'll just keep using this shoot or this project where we have the shoot coming up. Yeah. An example, they did have an instructional designer on board. So the process, you know, it's, but I'm there to do to bring all the production knowledge in. So the
instructional designer would come to you with an idea or say, here's instructionally how to do it. And then you look at it and go, from a video perspective, maybe not. Let's do this. Let's do that. Kind of collaborative that way.
It's collaborative, but it's also prescribed. You know, the publisher knows what is desired in the market for whatever textbook this is. So between the publisher and the author, they kind of have a direction where they want to go. And then the instructional designer, and I've worked with this particular designer for a number of years, and she's great. And whenever we work together, it's a super dynamic duo. You know, she will build out the storyboard with the author even before I get it. But I could also do that because I have a teaching background as well. So, but in this case, you know, she could kind of oversee that, and then I just come in and, like you say, she'll just sort of spark some ideas, and then I'll knowing what the production parameters are, I'll say, well, here's what we can do, and here's some other ideas, and again, it's all like quick. We have to do it quickly. So you kind of have to know what's going to work, and so that requires a lot of relationship. Having relationships with people and having dialogues ahead of time, and really understanding the purpose of the videos that we're producing.
So just to say a little bit more about that, you're talking about making videos for educational textbooks. Yeah. So what is the purpose of a video that's like accompanying the textbook, or is this in a supplemental guide? I mean, you can't click the link in the textbook, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is a great question, and this is how it works in the publishing world. And of course, the industry's going through a lot of. I keep saying the word challenges, but the whole transition into digital is still a big thing. So the main delivery now is through courseware that the publishers, their own proprietary courseware. So the videos will live, and I'm also talking about assessments. Everything is assessed now. No video is produced without an assessment tool. And so because that feeds into a grade book and so on. It drives engagement. So and utility. So the courseware, it's really about courseware. It used to be, in the old days, it was websites and discs that were like packaged with the textbooks, but now it's all courseware.
I remember laser discs. That's how old I am. We used to try to program laser discs where the computers were connected to them, and you would jump to this part of the laser disc.
Oh, nice. That's high tech.
Oh, yeah. It was great back then. We also synchronized slide decks, those rotisserie, like literal slides.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
They would stack them, and then there would be this little tape recorder in the middle, and you would create a tape, an actual cassette tape, and the cassette tape would have little dings on it, and those dings would trigger the changing of the carousels.
Nice.
It was multimedia back in the day.
That's multimedia. I like it. I like it with tactile. I like that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about interactive stuff here and interactive video, and I'm curious, when you're shooting this stuff, are you shooting these videos? Because you mentioned assessment, so my mind started going in this direction. Are the videos just sort of standalone as a piece of content, or do you also have to think through as to how maybe an interactive developer might add a hotspot over a particular area, or how this might be used in more interactive fashion?
It's a great question. I mean, I have worked on pause and predict video, but not to the extent that I've seen in other venues where they have more budget, where you can actually click on something and it'll take you to a different video outcome. The publishers are not really doing. It's more about working with it's kind of marrying. And that's where the understanding publishing and how the teams collaborate and work together, you have to understand what assessment is important, because we want to obviously cover that in the video. So the teams need to talk to each other, and even if the assessment is outside of the video. So.
And that's a great point. And I want to just expand on that point from that business perspective really quick. And I know this is going in like a completely 180 different direction, but I think this is something that a lot of us in the training industry have a tendency to forget, and that is we focus a lot on the instructional design and we focus on the process of creating what it is that we create. But I think sometimes we get frustrated with the people that we serve and the businesses that we serve because they put these constraints on us, or we have these great instructional ideas and they squash us. And at least we feel squashed, but really it's just that we don't understand their business, right? And we don't understand the constraints that they're under and what they're trying to solve. And I think if we as an industry, as professionals, worked harder at creating solutions that fit into that, in your case, right, your understanding of the publishing industry gives you this idea of, okay, there are some things that I can do, and then there's some things that I can't do. There's some things that I'd like to do, but I know because they're publishers, I can't do those things.
Exactly. No, it's absolutely true. And couple things will come into play. Obviously, budget. but also time to market, when they actually need, and often it's tied to, the content is tied to marketing, the sales that they're, whatever features they're pushing, pushing, not to be pushy, but that they're.
Oh no, they are.
I mean, they are out there literally knocking on doors, talking to professors, and they are very sensitive to getting tools into the hands of professors and instructors. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's a hot topic for us. Sam, you got something?
Yeah, well, from the assessment piece, that's something that I'm always pushing for whenever I'm creating video content and stuff like that. How is it going to be measured? How is this behavior already being measured? What are we going to tie it back to, point by point? Because it helps determine what are the things you want to emphasize in your shot. What are the things that are going to just fall out of the script that somebody really wanted to say, but if there's no measurement against it, it sounds like you've gone from the place where nothing is really assessed very much to now everything is assessed. Yeah. I'd love to hear a little bit about that transition in terms of your process of how it is that you're looking at a production and just what that's been like, that transition for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you always want to feel that the content you're working on is valuable and that you're doing it for I always think about the students or learners. I say students because I am a teacher, but learners but back in the day, without the assessment, you may have had more kind of fun type, more dramatic. You might have a little like vignettes or things that you would do a little more on the creative side. And now, because we're also constrained by attention spans with video, we're trying to pack lessons into 3 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. And so you really have to know your pedagogy. Everything has a learning outcome, and you just have to get to your points. And if you have to do a deeper dive, you have to talk to your editor about, we really need 5 more videos to do that, so there's a lot of conversation that happens around even just the launching. Discussions will go on for a while sometimes about these things. So
do you ever say no when they come back to you and say, listen, we need 35 points made in a 5-minute video because that's all we can afford. So can you squeeze all these things in there? And then you're like, no, really, you're going to have to do multiple videos in order to effectively do that. And then, did they say, oh, nah, we'll just go get somebody else to do our little 35.5-minute video or whatever? I mean, how does, do you have any sort of negotiating or tips for how to say no effectively in those situations?
It's hard, and again, a lot of throughout my career, very relationship driven. So I can talk very openly with people that I work with. I mean, work is what I love to do. And so everything's relationship for me. And so, yeah, we'll try to problem solve. And if a topic really is not lending itself to whatever constraint, then I have not put out anything that did not fit the parameters that we were going for, put it that way. And that's maybe just because it was the right project or whatnot, but I also do have those dialogues. So.
But it's the relationships. I think that's the really critical point right there. And I think a whole bunch of our other TLD casts and guests that we've had on the show, especially on Tuesdays on our leadership day, all of these executives, they're always talking about, there was this one relationship that I had where they trusted me and they were the ones that built me up and gave me an opportunity. And the best projects and the best success comes out of these relationships that I have because they trust me and I trust them. And they know that when I push back, it's for it's legit reasons and that I'm trying to support them in the best way I can. It's not just pushing back to push back.
Right. I mean, you did just make me think of, there was a project that I was on. It was an animation was a platform. It was a 3D animation platform for anatomy and physiology, and things just happened too soon. People were not ready to go, and it affected the whole workflow, and there was no managing it because people weren't participating. So having that conversation, about, yes, this is a great learning tool, but it's just not ready to go yet, and we can't do it yet.
Yeah.
That was really difficult, but everyone knew it, and it eventually revealed itself to be that situation. So
yeah, and those are hard conversations to have, right? Especially if you've been committed and that kind of thing.
Right, because I'll speak for myself, but I'm committed to making my clients happy. So
yeah.
I don't want to tell them no. And it's very painful. So it's a good learning experience. We have to do it sometimes.
Yep. Sam?
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's definitely something that comes up a bunch, from the instructional designer side of things, and how it is that's negotiated is really critical.
Yeah.
So when you're looking to actually deliver something for there's this series of videos or whatever, how is it that when you are ready? You were just saying it was obvious to everyone on that particular project, they just weren't ready to go. What is it that you need to see before you're ready to book the plane ticket, head to Georgia, get Mike or whoever, when is it that it's go time for production?
Well, it's really about asking deep questions in the beginning about, do you have the budget? Do you have, who do you have, because publishers will bring in, it depends on the project, but they'll bring in different people, different parties, it'll be a different scenario each time, especially in software. I mean, software is a whole development thing, but, they have some long-standing relationships with vendors and so forth. But so just understanding that it's okay to ask them if they have the money. Mm-hmm. And it's also hard in often you want to just get going on the work, but just standing still till you get your purchase order, until you understand that everything's in place to actually proceed, and asking more questions about vendors you don't know about, if you're going to be working with them, and reporting early on, here are my concerns, and I would, like you said, I wouldn't say this if I didn't feel it was significant. So it's a lot of just conversations that you have to have, tough conversations that you have to have.
Yeah, right. I always forget that there's whenever people are talking to me about projects and they're like, how long does it take to do something like this or whatever? I always think about that production aspect of it, right? And it's like, but when it comes to client time, contract time, consulting time, and figuring out that timeline, like the timeline may go from here to here. The actual building of the product is probably here, but then there's organizational stuff ahead of time, getting everybody on board, communicating the right things to the right people, getting everything going. And so that significantly stretches out the project as a whole, even if the production is really only that much of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, most of my projects, when they are, because I am a longstanding, I have these longstanding relationships, and I'm an integral part of these publishing teams because that's where I come from. I will be in on conversations a lot earlier than other people, maybe because I'm involved in a different way than others. So, I actually have to step back sometimes and say, okay, wait a minute, they're just talking right now. It's not happening yet, but usually once it's go time, we're good to go. And then, ideally, the projects I've got on my plate right now, I've got full control. I've been hired pre-production through delivering the video files. So that's perfect, because that means I can just run with it and get it done. The only thing that you have to account for are slowdowns with reviewers, because everything does get reviewed in this atmosphere. So
publishing, yeah, I can imagine there must be a team of 30 people offering their insights into how you did your job.
And it's the good and the bad about it, because I really maybe I'm a little old school, but I love bringing vetted content to students. You know, the experts have created it, and it's been market tested. You know, because there is so much self-publishing now and do-it-yourself video and etc. So you just have to account for that delay sometimes, and that's hard. Yeah, for sure. So let's I'm going to take a quick break again, because we do have a sponsor this week, so I'm going to do an extra special halftime ad for them. But when we come back, what I really want to talk about is we'll do traditional Video Friday geeking out on the editing side of things and the camera side of things. And when you're doing your directing thing, what does that look like the real geeky production techie stuff? We'll jump back in and talk about that. All right. And then we'll get into
any questions that anybody else has, feel free to throw those in. It's great. We've got some questions in there popping up from Jolt and Craig, but more room for your questions too, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the meantime, while everybody's thinking of all of the amazing questions they want to ask, I'll see if I can find the page that I've lost. Oh, there it is. I was just on the wrong thing. No, wait, I'm not. Wait. Oh, darn it. It was here.
So visualize. Virtual learning.
Visualize. Yes, go VLC. Thank you, Craig. I'm just going to click on that and drag it down here real quick and see what happens. While I'm getting the video.
And we'll have to just visualize Brent for a moment there as his internet pauses. It's not you, Amanda. Don't worry.
I'm looking at everything now, so. I see questions here.
Yeah. Looks like Brent's probably switching between some screens there, and he might have to reconnect here in just a moment.
No worries.
But as I was just saying, yes, questions from everyone. I do look forward to geeking out just a little bit. But maybe we could take one of those questions while we're waiting for Brent to come back. If you wouldn't mind, Amanda,
sure.
Which is from Jolt. Do you work with actors or just SMEs, and how do these projects differ?
Good question. Okay, so in my day job of educational media, which I love, it's all subject matter experts in the videos or their students. We've never... Oh, actually, no. I mean, I have brought in actors. It's very rare. I mean, and it's never been for a speaking role. It's been sort of like background. But in my moonlighting work in film production, I do work with actors. But so for the educational media, the only actors that I do work with on a regular basis are the voice actors.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it looks like we have Brent back. Hey, Brent, are we ready for take 2 of halftime?
You know what? Let's just keep going. I think that was since you've already jumped into the questions. Chrome crashed on me. It's the first time ever that happened. Just everything just poof disappeared. So, but I'm back. So I don't want to tempt fate. Let's just keep going. Let's go into the second half of the show.
All right. And we were just talking a bit about the actors versus SMEs in terms of getting a good take, a good performance out of someone who's not an actor, who's a subject matter expert. They may be great in front of a classroom or behind a computer as a writer, but how is it that you get them to actually give something to the camera that people will connect with?
You guys are asking really good questions. I mean, that is the key to what I do with these, with folks who are not, on camera talent usually in their daily lives. So, I mean, education is part entertainment when you're working with students. I found that out myself when I was in the classroom, and I was like, oh, I have to put on a show for these guys, but people get really nervous in front of the camera, including myself. So just maybe that's part of the connection that I do make with my talent, my subject matter experts that are on camera. There are some that are okay, but some are first timers, and they are very self-conscious and nervous. So we just very gently, pretty much always go in a linear sequence through a lesson, or a technique, or I do a lot of lab technique videos, or I have done, and so we'll just kind of go in sequence so that there's no confusion about the lesson, because it can get confusing if you try to bulk shots and so forth. So we're pretty much a one take type of, there's no time. We don't get the budget for lengthy shoots. So if it's not a first take, it'll be a second or a third, but it's usually just running with it and just very gently directing the talent throughout.
Do they end up having just kind of what's in their own mind? You give them a little guideline, and then you kind of click record and they go, or do you have the great big cue cards with the script on it, and somebody's holding it up and they're like reading off of it? Or
it's evolved. I mean, everything's scripted because all of the development has to be reviewed. Everything has to be reviewed and is reviewed. And also it just makes everyone's life easier because we're talking about subjects where the instructor knows the content well, like microbiology, but everyone around on the team does not necessarily. I mean, I've been working with sciences for forever, so I kind of have absorbed a lot and know what to look for and that sort of thing. But they have to be very clear in their direction, what they're trying to capture in a storyboard. For example, instead of saying, we need the polymerase chain reaction to do this, they need to tell us we need the blue blob to move.
Right.
Because we have to do the animation or whatever later and have to understand what they're talking about.
What it is that they just said. Yeah. I don't know how to animate that.
Yeah, we'll, and then when they do it, and that's what I bring. I help them put the direction into a layman's, or a layperson's terminology, and produce the video that way. So yeah, it's really a lot of fun. I love the challenge of taking that message. I mean, I'm a communicator, I'm a writer, so and just crafting it for everyone to understand. So.
That's what I was going to ask before. I know I wanted to geek out on the tech side, but I totally forgot this. This has hit my mind earlier, that since you come from the writing side of things, right? And how has that impacted the video and the e-learning side of things? And how did you translate sort of that skill set into writing a script, right? Versus writing for publishing versus writing for video.
So I love to tell, all the pieces connect. I was a creative writing major in college and studied playwriting. So scripting was part of what I learned to do. And then in media, telling the story of, these, short films or whatever, it's just a natural progression. And also given time, the fact that we have shorter attention spans and being an editor, I mean, I'm really about precision. And if you were to be in my house here with me, I mean, I'm constantly weeding things out. I just like to get things down to the core. My husband will tell you, I'm always like, do you need this jacket anymore?
like my wife. Can we throw this away? Is this something we can throw away? I bought that yesterday.
That might be for fashion reasons, Brent. I don't know.
So it all goes together, and I'm also a visual person. I paint and I do photography, and I've always done those two things. So it all combines very naturally for me. And when you're an entrepreneur, challenges are always welcome. You always want to be doing something that you haven't done before. So give me something I haven't done before, whatever topic it is, and I'll find a way to do it. I'll hire the subject matter expert if I need to, and we'll collaborate, and I'll help them write it, and we'll get it produced. So
when you're doing the educational sort of scripting or thinking or writing, do you follow? Because we've talked about this before, and I've had people push back on me on it. But do you ever follow like the 3-act structure, right? When you're thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's more dictated by learning objectives,
right,
or a lesson. So, but yeah, I mean, things pretty much that trio, the threes, telling jokes, in threes and stuff like that. That's pretty prevalent prescription for a lot of things. Yeah.
Because I've had people say, it's just instruction is different and everything. And I'm like, I don't know, really. I mean, maybe yeah, maybe no. But I think storytelling is storytelling. It's sort of stood the test of time. And
I mean, I have another series that I'm working on. And what I actually do in storyboards sometimes, I mean, depends on the series. But this particular series, I because it does sort of have a formula to it. I have a table of contents at the top of each storyboard, intro to topic,
mm-hmm.
lesson with, however we're teaching it, outro. And part of that is for the instructor, the author or whatever, that for them to really think about the construct of the video. And to also learn the terminology, like what's an outro? I just got that question recently because we do use the terminology even.
It's the backside of the intro.
Intro, outro. So the crossover with is very natural to me, but I also understand what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, getting to one of the other questions here, if we could, Brent, do you mind scrolling down to Craig's question? Because that gets into more of the geeking out kind of questions.
Cool. Yeah, let's get into that. So he asks, how do you handle shipping equipment, charging the client, packing, mode of transportation, contingency plan, etc.?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, here's how Thrasher Editorial is scrappy. and one of the things that's hard for people to understand is like, man, we are really giving you a good deal here, because we tote stuff around on the plane, check the bags. If we're going to a shoot, if we're flying Southwest, we get to check it for free,
2 bags up to 48.5 pounds.
So, we were talking about risk management earlier, and in a way it's fairly risky what we're doing. I mean, I am insured, I have insurance, but if we were to show up and the stuff came off the plane broken, it would be a hassle. And one thing that I'm doing differently now, because it's just too scrappy, is I'm no longer flying in the night before our shoot, because I've had issues where the planes were delayed and I didn't get in until 2 a.m. and then it's just way too much risk. So I get in a day in advance. But shipping, otherwise we have, for shipping drives or whatnot, we just factor in the cost of shipping. But yeah, we have toted everything, or we'll rent gear. Like we're actually renting some gear in Atlanta next week. So
depending upon where you're going, and especially if you have contacts, right?
What's that?
Especially if you have contacts, if there's like a shop that you go to in a particular location, it's like, yeah, we can just rent from those people. Or
I mean, this is a 2-camera shoot, which is unusual for us because it is more budget for someone to hire a second camera. But I do have a team in Boston that I work with. I'm actually going to be shooting with them at the end of the month. So, it depends. I can arrange different, depending on the project or what's needed. When I work with Mike, we're the creative duo. We're the first timers duo. We bring a special something to a production. So I wouldn't necessarily want just anybody to work with me on that, if that makes sense. So I can figure out what the production needs are and match the talent that's required.
You use pelican cases or alligator cases?
I don't know. Mike would have to answer that.
I was just thinking shipping, so maybe that's really what Craig was going after. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're heavier, right? They protect your gear, but they're heavier. So if you're going to be scrappy, you might think, maybe I could put these into a regular suitcase and just...
actually, no, I can answer that question. Yeah, we have an REI padded bag that we use. Ooh,
the thing about those cases, just to answer that question, Brett, from my own experience, because I do travel with stuff packed in suitcases a lot.
Yeah.
But know that all of the gear that you pack and you take in this scrappy way, like on Southwest or whatever, it will probably get examined because it's going to have stuff in it that they're going to want to look at. And don't pack your lithium batteries in there. You have to pack the lithium batteries and take them with you on the plane in luggage. But know that when people unpack it, they won't pack it generally the way that you did. And that's really what you have to be careful of in the schlepping of stuff, because they'll put it back different. And that might not be good for your gear. And that's the advantage of like Pelican cases or things like that.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's amazing what we've gotten through security.
It's great when it works.
Yeah.
Don't say that out loud.
Yeah.
We're being monitored.
But you know, there's an advantage too to traveling. I'll just point it out. I mean, you can hire, there are networks of professionals, and you can get a crew on, in a certain location, not every location, obviously, because we go to some really small towns, small cities. And so my point being that it'll be very expensive. So just for the client, when you're making the plan, for them to understand, that's always been a challenge for me, for them to understand what we're actually doing that is to their benefit. So.
Yeah. We got another question in the Ask a Question section from Jolt. He wants to know, what was one mistake you made once? Is there one that sticks out for you that you learned from so significantly it never happened again? Or
mistake. Well, I'll talk about contingency, if that will qualify.
Sure.
A learning moment.
We had a job. It was full production. It was, storyboarding, everything, shoot, post. And for the shoot, the Thrasher Editorial Roadshow was down with illnesses, and we could not travel. So that got me thinking, because our contracts, people are not signing our contracts, we're signing theirs. So as a producer, part of that conversation, like we were talking about, is I really should be having those conversations with clients about contingency. I mean, it was fine because there wasn't a push. We could reschedule, but it was one of those moments in the client relationship where I, felt incredibly bad that I let them down. So, but when you're scrappy and you're not prepared to pay more money for a second crew to go out or whatever, you have to deal with delay in that case. So, so I'm still
Yeah. I mean, you got to. So as long as you just put that into the contract or into the wording or a clause somewhere that says, "Hey, in case this happens, this is how I, as a business, respond to it? If you're not okay with that type of response, what would you be okay with? And if they said, well, we would love for you to hire another crew on the site because the deadline is the most important thing, then you kind of have to factor that into the cost.
Exactly. So those are, and those are hard conversations, especially when, you're hugging your client and when you see them and stuff. You don't want to, it's hard sometimes to have conversations like that because I know how strict budgets are. So, but it's important. So that was one thing that
a good one.
It was like a wake up call. Okay, I really need to get on top of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Mike gave us that same wake up call at TLDC 19. He got sick.
I was just going to mention that.
We missed him, and we do hope and wish him well. I think he's fully recovered now, but
he's all good.
Sam had to totally sprint and wing it.
Yeah.
And the product wasn't near what Mike would be able to produce, just because of the level of gear as well as expertise that he's bringing, and it wasn't anywhere near what Mike can do. But transitioning over to that, what is it that you're like in settings and gear and stuff like that? What is it that you're shooting at, that you're editing at and outputting to in terms of like the screen resolution? Are you shooting things for 1080p because that's what it's going to be in the final result? Are you shooting things at a higher grade? And then could you say more about that?
I mean, we have high res 4K, and but everything does get condensed for the online platforms. But the publishers we can give them the high res anytime they want.
Do they give you standards? Do they say, hey, listen, this is what we want you to go by? Or do they say, hey, we have no clue about this digital stuff. Can you tell us what we need?
They do have specs. It doesn't mean that they're always accurate or up to date or whatever. But we do have a baseline, and it's pretty much low res. I mean, actually, MPEG 1, remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That persisted for a long time. And we actually had like 4K stuff we were putting into MPEG 1. It was really great.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So
good times, MP1. Wow.
But we capture everything high res, and it's available.
And what can you say a little about that decision? Like, what is it that gives you when you're capturing it at high res like that?
We just like to build off the high res. We want the source to be high res. That's what our gear does as well.
Yeah, and you can always go down, but you can't go up after the fact. Yeah.
And, it gives us options too in post. If we need to punch in on something, we'll have the resolution in place, that kind of thing. Although when we're on site, we try to get the shots exactly, I'm an Ansel Adams kind of photographer. I want everything perfect. Lighting and the framing, and, I'll stand there on the roof of my car with my camera waiting for the light. So,
we had a documentary crew at my house doing an interview with my kid's godmother, and they wanted to set it up in the kitchen, and they cleaned my whole entire kitchen for me because every little tiny thing that the camera guy saw in the camera, he was like, do you mind if we go take all of the things on the pretty little pictures that your kids have done on your refrigerator? Can we just take all of those off and put them over here? And then let's move the coffee maker over to the other counter. It's just not, just like clear the whole thing out like that.
That's what we do, and I like to say too that we leave it even better than we found it.
Oh yeah, I'm not complaining about it. I just thought it was really interesting how they were looking at and taking it from a real Ansel Adams sort of approach of every pixel on that screen, what in the background, even in the distant background, what's going to make that shot different. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, because this content, and particularly, I'll just, I know we're running out of time, but in publishing too, when the money does come around, you want to make the most of it because that content's going to live on for years. So to have things as neutrally modern and clean is really important because students are going to be viewing that for a while.
And
we are reaching the top of the hour. Oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Just one last question about that. So we're talking about the background. How about the foreground for the person who's on camera? You mentioned, coming with too much hairspray or whatever. Are you making like makeup adjustments yourself, or how is it that you deal with something like makeup for your talent?
Oh, I actually have on the Thrasher editorial YouTube page, there's a little video of me giving an author a manicure. I bring a kit with me, and because we do have a lot of hand shots.
I was just going to say the science stuff. I'll bet you do get those close-ups of people touching the beakers and all the stuff.
I mean, I have in my notes that I send out ahead of time, which hopefully somebody reads. I do talk about all this, but I mean, one shoot recently I showed up and they hadn't done their nails, so I had to do their nails, and but that's fine. I mean, I'm prepared for it, but it's better if you can do your own nails.
Do you have to bring a makeup artist as part of the crew if somebody really just is not looking good on camera?
No, hopefully I troubleshoot that in advance, so it doesn't happen. And I do say like keep it natural, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens in Georgia. We're going to work with some students, so anything. I actually had students show up one time in a fluorescent orange shirt, so we had to go out to Walmart and buy a new shirt because you don't want that to persist on video. So.
Right.
Bring a big white lab coat and say, hey, this looks so much better if you're wearing this lab coat. Let's give you this.
Definitely. So, it's a lot of little details, and that's what we do. So,
well, thanks for sharing.
What we forget about.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time, Amanda, to share some of those details with us about specifically like making the hard sciences a little easier, and how it is that you've found your niche. And there's really a lot of overlap. So it's with a lot of the instructional designers that are in our community and watching this. So thanks so much for coming in and talking with us. If people want to follow up with you or find out more about Thrasher Editorial, where do they go to do that?
Here, I'll put it in the thing too. Go to Thrasher. I'm gonna put it up. Thrasher. Oops.
Editorial. I'm trying not to crash Chrome this time, but I'll see what I can do.
ThrasherEditorial.com, and you can also check out kkstudios.org. That's my film. That's the film side of. I have a personal. I spend time personally developing indie films. So, but I love this community is great, and I would love to hear from people. I'm always open to that.
Great. Well, we'd love to have you back sometime, maybe to talk about the film production end of things. I'm sorry we didn't get to that today. There was just so much to talk about. So thanks for that. And yeah, we'd love to have you back sometime. And for anyone else who'd like to reach out and ask questions, please feel free to do that via the website that's linked there in the chat. And check out, oh, good, you put KK Studios in there too. So they can explore themselves about your film work as well.
And I'm on Skype. Here's my Skype number.
Ah, cool.
Here we go.
Because, that's a real popular thing now, Skype. Anyway, thanks, you guys. I really appreciate your time. And thank you for joining us.
So much fun chatting with you today. Man, we could talk for so much longer. There's lots of stuff. Let's do it again.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I'm going to close out your video, and then we're going to say goodbye to everybody. Thanks again. It was so good to meet you too, Amanda. Thanks.
Thanks. Same back to you.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye. All right, Sam. Tons of fun. I knew that hour would go by too fast. I'm sorry I derailed us too many times.
No, that's great. That's and thanks again, Luis, for I've never met Amanda before either. That was really cool to have her on. So yeah, we'll have to do that again.
Yeah, tons of fun for sure. So yeah, I just keep thinking going down to Georgia. There's going to be some big hair, big makeup.
And
it's going to be interesting. I want to hear how that story goes, Amanda.
And the devil will play a fiddle. Yes.
There's going to be some good ones. Oh, all righty, Sam. Hey, what's coming up in the future on Video Friday before we go?
Well, still booking in some guests and confirming some folks. Just confirmed Jeff Batt's going to be back soon to talk about XAPI video stuff. And he's also speaking at Learning Dev Camp, which is coming up. If you haven't checked that out, that's in Salt Lake City coming up in June. But we're going to have someone from Padcaster on talking about things that are a little easier to pack in your rig and take around. And also Nikki Hobson will be joining us hopefully very soon. We're still locking in that date. And Nick Ribeiro as well. So hope to get those locked in real soon. Topher Olson will be returning hopefully later this month. So more news on that to come real soon. Stay tuned.
Awesome. All right. And with that, I will say goodbye to everybody. Get out there and train somebody. And don't forget to learn something new.
All right.
Aha.
Misfire.
Oops. Have a good one.
All right. Catch you later, Brent.